tragic story out of West Vancouver, BC over the weekend where a driver in their 60s crashed, and in that crash, two other people also in their 60s were killed. Investigators are looking into whether speed, a medical incident, was the reason or were the reasons behind this crash. And it got us into a conversation about when it is time, based on age, to give up driving. And I'm sure it's not specific for one individual. Things happen to us at different ages. But we're looking for a legal perspective on this. And from Kotak Personal Injury Law, we welcome to the program Nainesh Kotak. Thank you for your time.
Thank you both for having me.
This is a terrible story. 10 people hospitalized and two others who reportedly died. This driver, this woman in her 60s, crashed into a wedding party in West Vancouver last Saturday night, Nainesh. And so people are having that conversation, right? When is it too late for seniors to be driving? Should there be an age limit?
Right. This is, excuse the pun, an age-old question, obviously. And currently, if we look at Ontario, there's testing, mandatory testing after the age of 80, but it's, the type of testing that it is not really, for a driving test per se. So what they're asked to do is they watch a video and they draw a clock. And put in the numbers, and then they're asked to do, okay, what's 11:15, and do the lines where that would be, and that's sort of like a mini dementia test that's used in hospitals, I believe. So that's one thing they do, and then there's a vision test. Right, so there's no written driving test per se, or an actual road test, unless it's specifically requested in the individual situation, and that's after the age of 80. Someone did challenge that to argue it's against the charter, and that was dismissed. So it's obviously not unconstitutional. So the real question is, is there a specific age that driving should be stopped? I think because we're all individuals, I think that would be a little bit punitive, even though driving is a privilege and not a right. But I think it would be punitive. But my own view, I think, if you look at statistics, 2015, there's an American Auto Association study that says, look, seniors are outliving their ability to drive safely by 7 to 10 years. There's a Transport Canada study from between 2000 and 2015 that says, look, seniors are dying on the road at a greater percentage than any other age group, and maybe because of their own physical vulnerabilities. But there's no question, as we age, our cognitive abilities decline, as well as does our reaction time as well. So I'm of the view that they probably ought to have, after the age of 80, some sort of road test. And look, it's not perfection. They're not asking you to, run the track or have a perfect parallel park and things like that. But an on-the-road driving test, in my opinion, would be suitable. Now, this driver wasn't even in their 80s; they were in their 60s, and we just don't know, obviously, what the cause was. Were they distracted? We just don't know. But given what we're seeing in terms of stats that are coming out of the United States, and even here, those above the seniors, and particularly those above 80, are the most vulnerable, in fact, on the road. And in my personal view, and I know some of your listeners probably wouldn't like that. And listen, look, I had my father's driver's license was taken away at a certain point in his 80s, right? And it may happen to us as well. But I think for the safety of all, I think that there should be actual road tests once you hit 80. And if you pass it and you're doing well, you keep on driving. But I think what we have right now, in my personal opinion, it's testing certain mental aspects, looking for a little bit for dementia, but it's not really looking at your ability to drive on the road. And again, I think there's a bit of a personal view in that, in addition to looking at the law. So,
Nainesh, 80 is the age at which you're comfortable. You wouldn't suggest going younger than that? Because I mean, one of the things I think about as we're talking here is my parents who are now into their 70s. I mean, they need their vehicle. My brother and sister-in-law live about 35 minutes away, and my folks, especially in the summer, during the pandemic too, were heavily involved in babysitting. And that was, a vehicle obviously was their way to get to my brother and sister-in-law's place. So 80 years old would be a comfortable cutoff for you?
I believe so. Now, there may be other circumstances where, physicians are required to do a report to the Ministry of Transportation if they believe that for a health reason, whether it be cognitive or otherwise, a person is not able to drive or shouldn't be driving, then they'll do that report and the license will be taken away. But I think, we have, there are many baby boomers who are hitting 65 every day. It is an aging population, and people are, in fact, working longer. You've got people, baby boomers who actually drove all their life, where they were the ones at the age of 16 so they have tremendous driving experience. So I would think that starting the testing earlier may not be necessary. It may be overkill. It may be very cost prohibitive and punitive. But I certainly think 80 has always been looked at as the right age for that. But where I disagree, I think, as opposed to just drawing the clock and having a small video and an eye test, I think there should be more testing to specifically deal with their driving abilities, and that would mean a road test.
In this situation in West Vancouver over the weekend, where 10 people were injured and 2 people reportedly died, this is a woman in her 60s, and she drove into this wedding party. She accelerated ahead when it's assumed she was trying to reverse the vehicle. That seems like it could be a mistake made by anyone of any age.
I think so, and it has happened, where people hit the gas instead of the brake, they panic, and it just takes a split second. Obviously that they live, I think it might have been a shared driveway, I'm not sure. So it's obviously, a very tragic event that could happen at any age. And there's there doesn't seem to be a suggestion here that age did. And we don't know. We don't know the person's medical condition, right? So, but as you said at the outset, it certainly opened up the debate on this. And I think it's a very valid debate that's existed for some time. We haven't touched it in Ontario since 2014, where these types of changes were made. And there was, they didn't have the full written test anymore. And understandably, look, the testing that, they have, I get it. Maybe it shouldn't be computerized. And I don't think it is right now because, maybe people over 80 are obviously not, some are, but some are not computer savvy because of the way they grew up and the way they were educated, right? So, but I strongly believe a driving test is very important. And there are many good drivers, I think, over 80, but we do know, this is the time of decline. This is the time where dementia can kick in and your reflexes are in fact slower. And we're dealing with the safety of the driver, not only that, but the safety of pedestrians and others who are using the road as well.
Nainesh, we appreciate your insight and your thoughts on this, and we'll have you back again soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Take care.
Nainesh Kotak, a lawyer with Kotak Personal Injury Law.